his choices, but usually, hopefully, they can weather the consequences. But for the 5 friends you're about to meet, one lazy afternoon and one really bad decision set off a tragic chain of events. An unexpected encounter with a neighbor across the street turning deadly. And in one instant, their lives and their small Midwestern town changed forever.
I heard a bang, and then I heard another bang, and then I heard a couple more bangs afterward.
This story begins on an afternoon much like any other and ends with a twist no one saw coming. 5 young friends gather on this porch and make an impulsive decision. In an instant, one of them is dead and the other's lives shattered.
I got off school that day, we ended up talking, coming up with dumbass plan, excuse my language.
Blake Lehman is just 16 years old, the oldest of 3 kids, and a sophomore in high school.
He was the type of boy that if we were driving down the road and somebody had a flat tire, I was pulling over. He would get out and help. I mean, he was just that type of kid.
One of his closest friends is 17-year-old Levi Sparks. They grew up together in the neighborhood.
You're talking about best friends here that spent like every day together.
Yeah. On this day, Blake and Levi are hanging out with a few of their other friends, including Denzel Johnson.
We all kind of ended up together, and it just kept getting stupider,
Someone suggests finding a house to rob. They could use some extra cash.
When you were scoping out the houses, what were you looking for?
Empty house.
Why an empty house?
It was just a plan to get quick money. It was never a plan to hurt anyone or, to even confront anyone.
Were any of you armed?
No.
After checking a couple of nearby houses, they settle on a home they see every day, the one just across the street.
You're convinced nobody's inside?
We had knocked beforehand, and I mean knocked, like not just run the doorbell, we knocked.
Levi chooses to stay behind on the porch.
And at that point, you didn't say, hey, this is a bad idea?
I could have, but no, I didn't.
He says one of the friends asks him to be a lookout.
He was like, okay, if anyone comes, call us, and they took off.
So when you got into the house, who kicked down the door?
Denzel.
There was a boom, and my whole house shook.
This is the testimony of Rodney Scott, the homeowner. Turns out he was home, upstairs, taking a nap.
If someone was going to break into my house, I better get my gun.
And how far did you get in?
Well, I ran through the kitchen, made it to the bedroom.
Bedroom on the ground floor?
Yeah, on the ground floor.
And then what did you hear?
The first thing I heard was gunshots.
Fear comes over you, and you don't know if you're going to get hurt or if you're going to get killed. That's when I decided that I was going to fire my gun and try to trap them.
As soon as the gunshots started, I'd turn around and run away from the guns.
So you were hiding?
Yeah, the closet was the only space to go in the room. I was shot as I was entering the closet.
Did you know you'd been shot?
No. I felt something warm that came up with a handful of blood.
That's when you realized
That's when I realized
shot in the leg.
I'd shot. That's the out.
That's the out. And the entry wound is there.
And then Blake realizes something else. Denzel is slumped next to him, shot in the chest, bleeding heavily.
He died in your arms?
He died in between, right in between me and Jose. As we're both right there next to him. And I remember screaming, "I'm sorry," and just over and over again.
To whom were you sorry?
The homeowner, I was sorry, period. It was a bad situation. I was sorry for it all.
What started out as a teenage impulse has now left one of them dead. This is when Levi says his friends call him to come to the house for help.
I just stepped inside that doorway, happened to look over, and the guy was holding the gun at me. And I threw my hands up, and he was there, told me to get out of his house, and I said, "I'm sorry," and I took off.
The terrifying news that there's been a shooting on her street ricochets around the small town. Unable to reach her son, Angie Johnson starts to fear the worst.
The rumor was going around the neighborhood, one's passed away, one's living, and so it's like I didn't know if mine was alive or not.
Angie is getting ready to rush to the hospital when local police tell her Blake's already been treated and released from the hospital. But the relief did not last long.
Did you get to see him?
No, I never got to see him.
Angie soon finds out her 16-year-old son is in police custody. As for best friend Levi, his own mother takes him to be questioned.
The police department called me and said they wanted to interview Levi. So I took him in, did his questioning, you know, I took him home.
If she or anyone thought it was all just a tragic mishap, they were in for a rude shock.
They called me and said that he had been arrested for murder.
That's right, murder. Felony murder, because when someone's killed during certain crimes, in this case burglary, everyone committing that crime can be held responsible, even though none of them pulled the trigger or even had a gun.
That was one of the hardest parts about the whole thing, was explaining to these kids that they were being charged with murder. They didn't understand.
I didn't really comprehend it. I didn't put my mind around what I was really about to go through.
Okay, murder, maybe, okay, they don't know what happened. You know, maybe they think we hurt him. So my thought was still, okay, it'll get cleared up.
But there's no misunderstanding. Charged as adults, they're all facing the possibility of decades in prison for the death of their friend, even though there was no intent to kill, even the guy who was just the lookout.
Did it occur to you when your friends were crossing the street that somebody could get killed?
No. Due to the simple fact that nobody answered the door, no one was home, so where could the harm be done?
These aren't murderers. These are our children. These are our kids that made a huge mistake that day, but never hurt anyone.
Felony murder is controversial. It's not even on the books in every state.
I don't think it was reasonable to expect that they would have encountered a homeowner with a gun and that homeowner would have killed one of their colleagues.
You break into a home, you home invade a home. Is it foreseeable that somebody's going to get hurt? The answer to that would be yes. Is it foreseeable the homeowner is going to shoot you? The answer is yes.
In this case, the homeowner, Rodney Scott, was never charged with wrongdoing, but he was so haunted by what happened there, he never lived in that home again. One of the four, Jose Quiroz, who was just 16 at the time, was afraid of a stiffer sentence. He takes a plea bargain. For the other three teenagers, their fate is now in the hands of a jury.
Oh, the decision was real hard for me. I'm still torn over it. I have a hard time